Hey there everyone, Tiffany Quinn here, and this is our full body joint mobility workout. In today's routine, I'll be helping you improve strength and your functional range of pain-free movement in your shoulders, your spine, and your hips with an introduction to Kinstretch training. Kinstretch training is an isometric loading method used to increase mobility in and around the joint tissue, and I do think you're highly going to benefit from this as opposed to traditional stretching, which doesn't isolate joint function. Now, the only two things you'll be needing for today's workout is a mat or soft surface for cushioning through our exercises, and we'll also be using a yoga block for elevation of our leg during our hip drill. Keep in mind, if you don't have a yoga block, you can be a bit creative with this item, using a book for elevation or another sturdier household item. Now smash that thumbs up button for me, subscribe to the channel for a new routine every week, and let's go ahead and smooth those joints out. Welcome back everyone for our full body mobility and Kinstretch training today. Now through this routine, we have a total of 3 drills to cover. These will each be 7 minutes in length and I'll be guiding you through all of them. However, each one has a specific movement pattern and joint function to go along with it. So our first drill of the day will be focused on shoulder adduction, that's movement towards the midline. So we'll be working on a broader range of movement there. And then our second drill is going to be focused on spinal segmentation from the upper all the way to the lower back. And finally, we'll be finishing off the workout focused on hip internal rotation. This is an area that a lot of people, 90% of people, if not more, have a deficit in. So this will be a very important area to focus on. Now, before we even get into the workout, there are 2 main concepts that I'd like you to understand before we get started so that you can understand the intention behind the movements and the holds that we'll be doing today. So our first concept is a passive stretch, and I'm going to show you the example of the exercise we'll be starting with right after our mobility warm-up. So our position for our passive stretch, working on shoulder internal rotation, is going to be to bring our fists to the upper mid-back, and we want to come up as high as we can without mobilizing through the scapula. We're lifting up as high as we can to a point where we can no longer lift our fists off our back. This is important because this is where your end range is. So after we've held this stretch for a total of 2 minutes, we're going into our second concept, and this is PAILS and rails. This is an acronym for progressive and regressive angular isometric loading. I know that sounds super fancy. Really all it means is we'll be applying directional input to our isolated hold, and our PAILS contraction is a slow ramp up towards tension. So as we have our fists at the upper back, we're going to start driving our fists in towards the upper back, initiating external rotation of the arms. So as if you were doing this movement here. So that will be a 10-second ramp up, gradually building up intensity. And then as we hit our rails contraction, this simply means we'll be going the opposite direction. So we're going to try to lift our fists up off our back, initiating internal rotation of the arm. Now, why this is important is because we really do want to expand our ranges of motion. So we need to create that tension as we drive back. The goal, again, if you are at true end range, you won't actually see this movement happening. You'll want to be up here where you actually cannot lift your hands off. All right? So that is our intro. Let's go ahead and get started. As I set our timer, I'd like you to take your hands into a 90-degree angle, and we're going to start with an internal and external rotation. Going in 3, in 2, in 1. All right, let's take the shoulders back and down. Keep the scapula exactly where they are into that 90 degrees. We're rotating forward into internal rotation and rotating back into external rotation. Again, keeping the scapula, the shoulder blades in place the entire time. Trying to squeeze out a little bit more range of motion, and keeping in mind that throughout this routine, you want to stay in a pain-free range of motion. Coming forward and externally rotating back. Remember this motion, it's going to be important for our PAILS and rails contractions. Back into external. Now let's straighten those arms to the sides. Internal rotation forward through the shoulders and externally rotating back. 2 more here. Then we're going into our first passive stretch. Coming forward, coming back, and now again, keeping the scapula where they are, we're going to bring both fists up towards the mid-upper back as high as you can keeping the shoulders away from the ears. Now from this position, I want you to gently bring your elbows forward as best you can until you feel a stretch on the anterior deltoid right along the bra strap here. Now from here, we hold our 2-minute passive stretch, and our pails and rails contractions will follow. We have 2 rounds of pails and rails today. So relax right here. Focus on your belly breathing. So we're inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, and just relaxing into this range. If you can, try to bring the fists up a little bit higher and the elbows forward just a little bit more. So as I said before, this will be a training unlike ones we've done in the past, but it has helped me greatly in my strength training and really helping my joints to move more smoothly throughout movements that I'm doing even during my workouts and daily life. All right, we've got another 50 seconds. Just relax here. If you feel that it's too uncomfortable, it is okay to bring your fists down a little bit. This is where patience is key. Probably one of the most challenging mentally and physically trainings I've done. Focusing on your belly breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let's take that 4-second inhale together. And we exhale out. On our exhale, I want you to start driving your fists up into the upper mid-back area, creating that external rotation. So as if you were doing this movement with your arm outward like we just did before, keep driving up. For 4, 3, gradual increase of intensity. 2, on 1, we're going to switch the direction into our rails. Try to lift your fists up off your back. If you are at true end range, this motion won't actually be happening. Breathe through it. For 3, 2, 1, and slowly bring your arms out of tension and try to bring the elbows forward just a little bit more. From here, we go into our recovery passive stretch, but if you can, let's try to increase that rotation forward just a bit, keeping the scapula where they are still. Get ready for round 2 of our pails and rails. You've got 5 seconds to get comfortable. Take your inhale. On the exhale, again, start driving the fists up into the upper mid-back area. Drive forward, gradually building up intensity. Your greatest and safest pain-free effort. And switch into your rails. Try to lift the fists up off the back, keeping the scapula where they are. For 4, keep fighting. 3, 2, on 1, slow release, stay in that position. I actually want you to try to drive the elbows forward a little bit more. Smoothing out those joints. The fun part is next. My favorite part is liftoffs, and that is what we're going to follow this up with. So where you are right now, I want you to bring your fists down a little bit lower to a point where it's still challenging, but you'll be able to lift your fists up and off your back and back down. We're going to start our liftoffs in 4, 3, 2, on 1. We're going to lift up, back down, lift up, back down. Total of 10 reps. Lift up, fight for more, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down. We have 5 more. Up, back down, 4 more, back down, 3 more, back down, 2 more, back down. On this last one, we hold for a total of 15 seconds. Lift up and hold. Fight for more internal rotation, keeping the scapula where they are. Hold. For 5, 4, fight through it. 3, 2, on 1, gently bring your fists back down to the mid-back and lower the arms down. We're gonna finish off with the first exercise we started with, bringing those arms up into that 90-degree angle. We come forward into internal rotation. and take it back into external rotation. Coming forward, breathing throughout, coming back. Again, the scapula are staying exactly where they are, just moving through the shoulders. And back up. Rotate forward, rotate back. Now bring those arms in front. Now we're working through the scapula. Push forward, elevate, retract back to press down. Come forward, elevate, retract back to press down. Fighting for more range of motion, staying in a pain-free range of motion. Last time, forward, up, come back, and down, and shake those arms out. So that is drill number 1. We have a 60-second break between our drills, and to follow up with, our second mobility drill is going to be for spinal segmentation. So our next position, after you've grabbed some water, I know I need it, a little bit more of a relaxed training style, but you should be gradually building up that intensity during our pales and our rails contractions. Okay, so our first exercise for spinal segmentation, the feet are coming a little bit wider than hip width distance apart, micro bend in the knees, and our arms are going to come across the shoulders. We're going to come down into spinal flexion, and we're going to rotate to the right, side bend, extend, rotate to the left, side bend, and flex. So that is number 1 of our spinal segments. Going in 5 seconds, let's take those arms across. Inhale, remember you want to keep your hips exactly where they are throughout. Come forward, rotate to either side, side bend, extend through the T-spine. Side bend, flex forward. Rotate, side bend, extend, rotate, side bend, flex. 2 more here. Breathing throughout. Last one, now switch the direction, rotate, side bend, extend, rotate, side bend, flex. 4 reps here. Then we're coming down to the mat. Keeping those hips in place, being careful not to compensate. You've got 2 more. Last one, bring yourself up nice and tall and come on down to the mat for me. So we're going into a quadruped position now. The hands are in line with the shoulders, the knees are in line with the hips. Now we're starting from the low back. We're going to tuck the pelvic bones under and walk it up to the mid back, the upper back, pressing those palms forward into the mat and tucking the chin to the chest. Now before you come back into your interior rotation, we're going to hold for 3, for 2, for 1. Now start from the low back. We're going to anteriorly rotate into extension, walk it up the back all the way to the upper spine and the neck. Hold 3, hold 2, hold 1, and we're coming back to our lumbar spine, tucking the pelvic bones under from the lower back, walking it up to the mid back, trying to separate each segment, feeling each vertebrae as you come up the line. Take your time here. And one more time from the lower back to the mid spine, all the way up to the upper back and the neck. Now starting from the neck first, we're tucking the chin forward, pressing the palms into the mat, rounding through the upper back, walking it down to the mid back, to the lower back, tucking the hips under, and then again, starting from the neck, we're lifting the head up into extension, walking it down to the mid spine, the lower spine, and creating anterior rotation of the hips. And again from the neck, come forward, push your palms into the mat, rounding through the upper spine, the mid spine, the lower back, tucking the hips under, and coming back up into our extension, slowly. All right, great job. Now from here, we've got thoracic rotations. So we're gonna come back into our spinal flexion, tucking the chin down, rounding through the upper spine, come into the highest flexion you possibly can. Now take the right hand across the left shoulder. We're going to lift up and out, rotating through the T-spine, holding that flexion, and back down. Lift up, back down. Lift up, back down. Trying to rotate a little bit more with each one. Lift up, back down. Lift up, back down. Lift up, back down. You've got 3 more. Lift up and out, back down. Squeezing the obliques. Lift up, back down. On this one, we hold for 10 seconds. Lift up and hold. Keep that spinal flexion. Rotate as far out as you can. Pain-free range of motion. For 3, for 2, for 1, and lower that hand back down. Now from here, we're gonna cover the other side exactly the same. So we're going to come into our spinal flexion, tuck the chin down towards the chest, round the upper back, tuck those hip bones under, left hand across to the right shoulder, lift up and out, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, hold that spinal flexion, keep those hip bones tucked under, do not lose that posterior rotation forward, and down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down. Last one. On this one, we hold for 10 seconds. Find that spinal flexion, lift up and hold. Press firmly through that palm down into the mat. Lift your body up, rotate through the mid-back, the thoracic spine, and slowly, gently lower that hand down. So how did that feel? It felt pretty good, right? That's one of my personal favorites. So from here, we're coming into our L-sit position. Our next 2 minutes are going to be focused on full spinal extension and flexion. So the feet are coming in front. Flex both feet. If you need to, you can also have more support by bending the legs or even hold on to a resistance band here. So we're gonna come into our spinal flexion like we just did, tucking the chin down, rolling ourselves forward into full spinal flexion as best you can. Now we're gonna slowly, gradually bring our way down to the mat, holding that spinal flexion throughout, allowing our low back to come in contact with the mat, the mid back, and the upper back. Now, of course, there will be compensations. Hold that flexion as you come back up. But our goal is to really press every segment into the mat and feel them as they come down. So bring it forward as best you can and roll back from the lower spine, the mid spine, all the way to the upper spine, holding that spinal flexion, and then drive yourself back up segment by segment. Breathing throughout. Let's get 2 more in there. Really try to feel for each segment of your vertebrae here. It is a bit challenging. It takes time. And roll it back up. Slow and controlled. Go as slow as you need to. Take everything at your own pace. Try to lean forward a little bit more. And we're going to hold here for 5, 4, 3. Start driving yourself back up into an upright position for 2, for 1, and relax that tension. Okay, incredible job. Now from here, we are going to start incorporating the yoga block. So I'll show you our first position. We have a minute between here to get ready for our hip drill. And also, if you need some water, go ahead and grab that. Now, if you don't have the yoga block, you can, of course, use a pillow, a rolled up towel, or you can go without it, really for the entire drill. All right, so our first position here is to relax the head down if you have it on the yoga block. The bottom arm comes forward, the top arm is punching down. Very important to keep both of the hips stacked here in alignment. We're squeezing the core tight, and we're gonna flex both of our feet. Now, as we do this, you're driving the top hand down to help stabilize. We're gonna lift the top leg up into abduction, sorry about that, and we're gonna start driving it into, we're gonna start driving the knee up into hip flexion. We're going to abduct away from the body internal rotation of the hip, coming down into adduction. We're going to stack forward, donkey kick back without compensating at the lower back, and reversing the direction into external rotation and adduction down. As you come down, try to fight for more flexion and extend, breathing throughout, keeping both of those hips in alignment. Bring the knee up towards the chest, out and away from the body, internal rotation, slowly back into adduction, drive forward, donkey kick back into extension, open out externally with the knee, and we can adduct back down, driving more flexion upward, and extend. Come up, open out, internal rotation, back down towards the midline, come forward, donkey kick back, external rotation, bring it down, and extend. Dramatic switch to the opposite side. Top hand punches down, bottom arm is straightened out in front. Let's lift that top leg up and flex the foot. Hip flexion, abduction away from the body, internal rotation, adduction, come forward, extend back, open out into external rotation, adduct down, and extend. Hip flexion upward, abduct out, internally rotate, adduct down, stack the hips, donkey kick into extension, external rotation, and adduct down, fight for more flexion, and extend. Last one, drive up, open out, internally rotate, fight for a bit more, adduct down, come forward, kick back, open wide, and back into adduction and extend. Coming into our upright position now, into our passive stretch hold. Now we're gonna come into a 90-degree angle here, so feet in front. Now allow your knees to gently fall to the side, and we're going to line up the outer knee with the hip. Now from here, if you have the block, I want you to test something real quick. Place your hands on the mat and try to lift up that back foot. If it does lift, we're going to place a block under it and try to relax here. Now it is okay for this front leg to come in a bit more. And if you have some sort of medial knee pain happening, you can also take the heel a bit closer to the body, and that will help relieve some of that tension. So we're holding our passive stretch, and we've got a 2-minute hold here. So find a spot that's comfortable and try to keep both of these hips in alignment. Now there will be probably a bit of a lift. You might see a little bit of a tilt. Our goal is to try to make that a little bit less tilted. So the straightest you can get those hips, that's where I want you to be. Now, as we hold here in our passive stretch position, remember, if you weren't able to lift your foot off the floor, you don't have to use the block. So on our PALS contraction, what we're going to do is take our hand and place it over the knee, and we're going to fight for external rotation to start. So we're going to drive our heel into the block while we drive our knee up into our hand. Again, you're not going to see this actually happen. It's a slow buildup of tension, working within your safest effort and building that tension up. Keeping the spine nice and tall. Our first PALS contraction is in 3, 2, 1. I want you to start driving that heel into the block and driving your knee up towards the hand that's blocking it. Keep driving for 3, for 2. On 1, we're gonna switch that contraction, keep the body upright, no movement there. Start driving the knee down into the mat. This is a quick switch, like you're trying to lift your heel up off the block, working through the hip for 4, 3, 2, 1. Now I want you to slowly release. Don't rush it here. If you felt a bit of a cramp there, it is okay to come out of position and come back. And we're gonna hold here for another 20 seconds. We've got 2 rounds of PALS and rails, and then we go into our passive stretch base on the opposite side. So you're working in that isometric hold, driving force in either direction. And then our CARs, which are our controlled articular rotations like we just did in side lying, that's how we train our nervous system. Okay, Take a breath in for me. Now place that block hand over the knee. I want you to initiate external rotation, driving your heel down into the mat, lifting your knee up into that hand, and gradually building that intensity for 3, for 2, for 1, and quick switch. Drive that knee down towards the floor like you're trying to lift your heel up off the block, keeping upright for 3, for 2, on 1, slow release. Slow release, slow release. Great job. Okay, we've got one more part to this, and that is going to be our lift offs. So what you can do here is if you do have the block under one heel, we can remove that and we'll be able to lift off. Those of you who didn't use the block, you can lean yourself forward as much as you can until you're able to make this motion here happen. In 2, in 1, I want you to take a breath in through the nose. As we exhale, we're going to lift that heel up, back down, lift up, back down. Try not to let the upper body rock. Lift up, back down, lift up, back down. I'm gonna try to give you a better view. Lift up, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down. We've got 2 more. Lift up, back down. On this last one we hold. Lift up and hold. 10-second hold. Fight for more internal rotation. Drive the knee down towards the mat for 3, 2, 1, and slowly relax that leg down. Okay, from here we go into the opposite side. So we're gonna do a quick switch here. Yes, that definitely cramps. Okay. If you need to, you can bring this heel in a little closer. Let's try, not necessary, but let's try to get more of a 90-degree angle between the knee, the hip. So from ankle to knee to hip, all right? So let's take that block if you need it. If you can lift off right here, I want that block below the heel. If not, it's okay to leave that right on the floor. And let's try to straighten both those hips out so we don't have a tilt happening there. From here, we've got our 2-minute passive stretch. Focusing on our breathing. You may see that one side is better at this than the other. This tends to be my tighter side because I do balance on it quite a bit. All right. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Now I understand also that this type of training can be a bit frustrating in the beginning because it's kind of hard to grasp that concept. The more we do it, the easier this is going to become, and the more you'll find ways to challenge yourself. All right, take a breath in for me. Place that hand over the knee. I want you to start driving that heel down towards the mat like you're lifting your knee up off the floor, through the hip. Feel that contraction. For 3, keep fighting. 2, 1, and quick switch into rails. It's not a slow build up. The knee is driving down towards the mat like you're trying to lift the heel up off of the block. For 4, 3, 2, and slowly release that tension. Oh, I feel a cramp there. We want to try to stay out of cramp city. Whew. All right. 20-second hold in that passive stretch. And then we've got our second round of pails and rails. I'm actually surprised at how quickly this has gone by. All right, 10 seconds to go. Get ready for your next pails contraction. Slowly building up that intensity. It's not 0 to 100. We want to slowly increase it. Take a breath in through the nose. On our exhale, I want you to start driving that knee up into external rotation, pressing that heel down towards the mat. For 4, for 3, like there's a scale under your foot and you're pressing it down. 2, and 1. Switch that contraction into rails. This one is a quick switch. The heel is lifting off the block. You are light as a feather on it. The knee is driving down. For 3, for 2, keep the body upright. On 1, slowly release that contraction. And if you are using that block, we're going to move it so that we can do our lift offs. If you don't have the block under one foot, you can lean forward as much as you can, even if it means coming down to the forearms. This is okay too. All right. In 10 seconds, we've got 10 lift offs to do. Then we finish off with our side lying hip cars, just like we did before, only this time we'll do straight leg. All right, prepare yourself. Let's flex that foot in 2, In 1, lift up, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, back down, lift up, fight for more internal rotation, and down. Lift up, you're halfway there, and down. Lift up, back down. Lift up, fight for more, and down. Lift up, back down. Lift up, back down. 1 more, and down. This time we hold for 10 seconds. Lift that heel off the floor. Really try to pull into internal rotation. We've got 8 more seconds, 7 more seconds, fight for more. 4, 3, 2, 1, and slowly release that contraction. How are we feeling? So the side you were not just working, that's the side I'd like you to lay down on. Coming into our side lying position for our hip cars. The bottom arm comes forward, the top arm is punching down, flex the top foot. This time we go straight legs, so we come forward into hip flexion, open wide, internal rotation, adduct down, stack forward, extend back, keep the hips in alignment, lift up, external rotation through the hip joint, and adduct down and extend into hip flexion, lift up and out, internal rotation, my quad just cramped, all the way lower into adduction, stack forward, extend back, do not allow the lower back to compensate, keep everything where it is, lift up, externally rotating, fight for more hip flexion, adduct down, and extend back. Let's take it one more time forward, opening wide, internal rotation, all the way down, come forward, open wide, externally rotate, come forward, and extend over to that other side. We're gonna go 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds past the timer. We have 3 reps here. We wanna make sure we train the joints that we are going to be using different ranges of motion. So flex that top foot, come into hip flexion, driving that leg forward, into abduction, internal rotation, lower down, stack forward, extend back, external rotation, adduct towards the midline, and extend. 2 more reps. Come forward, staying in a pain-free range of motion, internal rotation through the hip, lower back, come forward, extend without compensating at the lower back, should be only coming from the hip, external rotation, fight for more flexion on the way down, and extend. Last rep, you guys. Come forward, open wide, internal rotation, adduct down, come forward, extend back one last time, make it your best rep, external rotation, adduct down, and extend and relax. Okay, you guys should be feeling pretty smooth by now. So through the next month, I'll be offering you a new mobility training every single week this month. So I do have that guide in the links below. A lot of these are going to be combinations of what we just did here today and our typical dumbbell strength. So I do think it will be fun to break those in half. So we're gonna make things all mobile and smooth and feel really great. And then we're gonna go strengthen them with our dumbbell exercises. I do hope you like this. I know it's quite different and it might take some practice to understand the concept behind your pails and your rails contraction. But the way I like to think of it is opposite directions. Your pails is your stretching, your rails is your contraction. You've got a slow ramp up in that pails contraction and then a quick switch into rails where we really try to take it at our greatest and safest intensity. Okay, everyone, this was really fun. I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments your thoughts about today's workout, and I'll see you for our next one. Great job today, everyone, and a big thank you for joining me for our introduction to Kinstretch training. Now, I do want you to keep in mind that after this session, if you're feeling sore in the areas that we've worked for about 1 to 2 days after it, this is entirely normal. However, if you're moving past into the 3 to 4 day range of soreness or tenderness in those joint areas, then you'll want to lower the intensity the next time you revisit this, as we're trying to strengthen the joints that we're working into, not overwork them. Now be sure to smash that thumbs up button for me, subscribe to the channel for a new routine every week, and remember that your February fitness guide is in the links below. Every week this month, I'll be bringing you a new strength versus mobility workout, and I do think you'll highly benefit from it. Finally, turn your notifications on for next week's upper body strength with dumbbells and shoulder adduction mobility workout. Okay, everyone, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you for the next workout.